Hello everybody. Today we'll be going over group topic population. Introduction. I'd like to welcome Clarissa, Adrian, Anjali, Brittany, Tony. Moving on. Indicators for the population. We use population density, population total, medical hospital beds, GDP, current US dollars, and air passengers. Our executive summary. This report analyzes the population subset from the World Database. In particular, analyzes the following indicators: population total, population density, GDP in USD, air passengers, and hospital beds. Historically, 213 of the countries had data entries for all 5 of these indicators. However, only 93 had data for all the indicators in 2011. The GDP indicator had the highest number of countries with data and population. Tennessee had the least amount of countries with data. Out of all the countries, Africa had the most data for air passengers carried and had the highest percentage growth in hospital beds from 2010 and beyond. Summary of the results. On the left side, we have mandatory analysis. For all indicators, on the historical side, we had 213. And fun fact, 2011, we had 93. Moving on down, countries per indicator, most was GDP, the least was population density. Africa, most recent was air passengers, and highest growth was hospital bed. On the right side, we have additional analysis. In 2008, all indicators decreased due to stock market crash. Until 2013, steady increase until the market actually recovered from the 2008 crash. I'd like to welcome Brittany.
Hi, my name is Brittany and I'll be going over a few of the mandatory analysis questions. For M1, we have countries which do not have data for air passengers. Here we have 10 of the 16 countries without any data for the air passenger indicator code. This implies that these countries did not carry any passengers via air transportation between 1970 and 2018. For M2, we have countries which have data for all indicators. We found that data is available in 213 countries for all indicators. This means that each of these countries had data for population total, population density, hospital beds, air passengers, and GDP at some point between 1915 and 2018. For M3, we have the numbers of countries per indicator. The number of countries that have data per indicator range from 213 and 153. The data related to the total population is available for the most amount of countries, and the data related to the population in the largest city is available for the least amount of countries. For M4, we have the top 10 countries with the most recent value for air passengers. The following 10 countries have the most recent data for air passengers. This implies that these countries attract the most amount of tourism in recent history. Next, Clarissa will present the remaining mandatory analysis questions.
Thank you, Brittany. Hi, my name is Clarissa, and I'll be presenting the rest of the mandatory analysis questions. For M5, we have the continents with the most recent average number of hospital beds. And as we can see on the chart, we have Europe topping the list at 6.19 average hospital beds, with the least amount of hospital beds in Africa. M6, we have the total value for each indicator per year between 1970 and 2010. There is an increase in values for the first 4 indicators, which are air transport, GDP, population in the largest city, and the total population, but there's a decrease in values for hospital beds. For M7, we have the average growth percentage for hospital beds since 2010. As we can see in the chart, the Gambia had experienced the highest percentage increase in hospital beds during this time frame at 414%. On the other hand, the lowest growth percentage was 55.77% in Macedonia. And 8 are the countries that have data for any indicator in 2011. After running our query using the EXIST SQL syntax, we found that 213 countries have data for at least one of these indicators, which means that these countries have data for either population, population total, medical beds, air passengers, or GDP. For M9, we had the countries that contain data for all indicators in 2011. We found that 93 countries have data for all 5 of our indicators. And that's it for our mandatory analysis. I'll now hand it over to Angeli, who will explain the additional analysis. Thank you.
Next, Tony and I will be covering the additional analysis questions. In particular, we analyzed the effects of the 2008 stock market crash on population. Our first question analyzed which 10 countries had the highest average annual GDP growth percentage between 2008 and 2013. This number was then rounded to 2 digits. Following the stock market crash in 2018, the following 10 countries had the highest GDP growth percentage: Somalia, Libya, Zimbabwe, Myanmar, Mongolia, South Sudan, Turkmenistan, Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, and Djibouti. A GDP growth of 0.51% for the top 8 countries quantifies the worldwide damage that occurred as a result of the crash. Our second question analyzed the total population in Europe from 2015 to 2013. The results were then listed quarter over quarter. Between the years 2005 and 2013, Europe had a sharp decline in their total population, with a population of 142 million in year 2008 when the recession began. In the recovery period up to 2013, Europe's total population had increased. Our third question analyzed the average number of hospital beds per 1,000 people that were available in each quarter between 2008 and 2013. We subsequently ordered the results by quarter and country. In general, the number of medical beds declined or remained stable during the first few years following the stock market crash. The amount of hospital beds steadily increased as the economy recovered. Part A of question 4 analyzed 10 countries that had the lowest average population density in 2008. In addition, we looked into the same metric in 2013 when the stock market recovered. In 2008, the lowest population was found in Equatorial Guinea at 203,273. And I'll leave it to Tony to explain the rest of question 4.
This shows that when the economy recovered in 2013, it actually increased the population density by 73,138 between the years 2008 and 2013. For A5, we looked at the top 10 countries with the most passengers in relation to population since 2013. At the top of the list is South Sudan with AirPSGR numbers of over 1 million. And as we look down towards the bottom of the column, Congo has the least amount, ranking 10th in terms of having the most air passengers in 2013. It looks like for South Sudan, the economy recovered really well for them, whilst the Congo is still catching up in development. So what we can tell so far from our data and the additional analysis questions in relation to the stock market crash in 2008, it definitely affected a lot of things around the world, especially air travel as well. Even towards 2013, it looks like it recovered really well. Overall, the population subset in the World Bank dataset provides insights into how countries differ in terms of population total, population density, number of air passengers, amount of hospital beds, and GDP. These numbers present common themes for certain countries. However, they can be affected by world events such as the 2008 market crash. Through analyzing this data, it can be concluded that population is tracked well across all countries. In fact, 213 countries report data for all 5 of the selected indicators. Out of the business questions that were asked, Africa represents the most recent air passenger data, and it has the highest percentage of growth in hospital beds since 2010. From a world's event perspective, all 5 indicators represent a decline in facilities that the general population utilizes. By 2013, these numbers steadily increased and represent a growing economy as the market recovered. Thank you everyone for tuning into our presentation, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.